Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Obviously, coronavirus is the number one story of the day. And joining us on the phones this morning to discuss how the state has responded to the pandemic, Texas House Speaker Dennis Bonnen. Speaker Bonnen, welcome back to the show. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's start off with some numbers out there and just kind of, you know, what you're anticipating, maybe what you're fearful of. Unemployment in the United States went from 282,000 to 3.3 million claims. There's some estimates that just last week alone that 150,000 Texans filed unemployment. What does this mean for the state, and what are you anticipating here in Texas?
Well, it's obviously not good news for the state, and we're anticipating that, frankly, with the direction things are going, it will get worse before it gets better. With that said, you know, I'm very optimistic that if we can comply with these guidelines from the CDC, the stay-at-home orders, I believe, and I'm no doctor, but listening to the experts, that if we can do our part of complying and doing the social distancing and those things over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think that we can start to come out of this. And the sooner we comply and the sooner we start to come out of it, the sooner people are going to be able to get back to work. We're going to be able to recover the Texas economy, and the better we're all going to be.
When it comes to small business owners, and you know, you've heard from so many of them over the last week, what is the state doing as far as small business owners, as far as sales taxes go? What is the state comptroller's office doing? What can people do to maybe ease the pain a little bit?
Well, the state comptroller yesterday, I believe it was, put out an alert or a memo, however you would state it, letting business owners know that he had a hotline for them to call about their February sales tax receipts that were due, and that they could call and work out a payment plan and work with the comptroller's office on that, and I would encourage them all to do so. In that, he stated that they would not be charging fines and penalties for those that were going to be late or having to do a payment plan. So those are significant efforts that can be made. One of the things that I'm presently working on is staying in touch with our congressional leaders so that we have as seamless of an opportunity for small business owners and Texans on the federal stimulus package that they hope to be passing today and tomorrow in Washington, and ensuring that those dollars flow to Texans as quickly and as seamlessly as possible so that we can keep those businesses propped up during this difficult time so that they are there and viable, hopefully when we come out of this recovery sooner rather than later, if people will stick to these guidelines.
Yeah, and let's talk about this. I had the Lieutenant Governor on yesterday. Obviously, Governor Abbott has not done a statewide shelter in place. He's been pressured to. I think he's made the right decision to let the local communities make this decision. You just said you did too. Good.
Correct.
Do you like the shelter-in-place orders, or do you, when I had the Lieutenant Governor on yesterday, he's not a fan of them, and I think he fears also the long-term impact that this is going to have, not only on local budgets, but on the statewide budget. Do you share those fears?
I have those fears, but I see it slightly different. My view of the world is that if we could just, I don't know the nature of the pandemic and the virus, and I'm not a medical doctor to know well enough, but my impression is I think we do less economic damage if we just shut it all down for a 2-week period and are done, and then you can go back to work. I think that this slow trickle is what's killing us. This slowly watching it progress and slowly moving into more and more and more and more restrictive scenarios. Personally, if we just got it over with, just stopped it, and think about that. With federal assistance in the trillions, which I'm a little nervous about, but we're going to take the help we can get, that would cover businesses for a 2 to 3 week period. And if we were able to then come out of this back in business, I think we're far more economically successful than being in a all but dormant state for 3 months, which is what I think we're looking at with a slow trickle of things. So I personally wish people would comply the best of their ability, and let's get this over with. Yeah. Because if you look at the numbers, they go down when people really follow the CDC guidelines. They get down to doing social distancing for real. They get down to only moving as they need to move, and that doesn't mean you don't still have your essentials being handled. But the reality of it is, what's very clear to me is that we're not winning the battle by refusing to comply. We're losing.
Visiting with Speaker of the House, Dennis Bonnen, here on the Chad Hasty Show, looking, and I don't know how far this is looking ahead. I know it's been brought up maybe in a conference call that you guys had earlier, either over the weekend or earlier in the week. It all kind of blends together these days.
It does.
The issue of a special session, which every lawmaker hates to even hear, being talked about. But you do have some lawmakers who have said, well, yeah,
not many,
but is there a possibility of a special session? Would one even be needed for this go around?
I'm going to say this respectfully. I've not heard anyone give us a reason of something we could do to make Texans' lives better today if we had a special session. And only the governor can call one. And I think at a time when we're doing social distancing and we're doing locally stay-at-home orders, the Georgia legislature is on self-quarantine because a state senator there tested positive. I don't see in the short term a good idea of bringing 150 House members, locking them into a confined space and going to work. I don't even know how you then bring the public to the process and have them be a part of it, which they have to be and must be. So until someone can tell me how we make Texans' lives better by having a special session, I don't think the risk is worth the reward.
Well, I think
at this point, we don't see the reward. The reality of it is the governor is leading and doing a great job. The lieutenant governor and I are working with him, and we're all three working together. We have the legislative budget board, which has budget execution opportunities. We're working with the comptroller. The truth of it is we are able to do what needs to be done through the process as it is. And if at some point we look up and we need a special session, we'll be there, we'll lead it, and we'll do a good job. But until someone can show us where there are problems that can be solved by the legislature, and I'm not trying to be funny when I say this, but I've never heard anyone take relief in knowing I'm from the legislature and I'm here to help. So
I think
heard
what's been
specifics of what we can do.
I think what's been brought up is the Economic Stabilization Fund, and if that can be used to help out businesses in Texas, short term or long term. And I know
we are able to support the businesses through the process of the legislative budget board today. The reality of it is the legislature, and I'm fine if there's a way to do it that we're not able to do now, but we are able to do things now. The comptroller has made it clear we are okay on revenues as we stand. Now, if that changes, you have to reconsider things. But at this moment, and that's one of the things I want to be careful about, at a scary time, we shouldn't be presenting information that makes it even more scary. The state of Texas economically is having, we're okay. If this continues and it gets worse, there may be different problems. But presently, the comptroller has been clear. We have the dollars to pay our bills. We have the dollars to keep the state afloat. We have the dollars for our schools. And frankly, he has the dollars to work with businesses on their sales tax not being paid in a timely fashion, which we should give them that support and that help. So we don't have a crisis that needs to be solved by the legislature economically in supporting businesses today.
Very
the
good.
legislature is able to respond to that as it is.
Very good. Speaker, let me give you the next minute or so. What's a final message you want to give out to those who are listening about the pandemic and what's going on here in Texas?
Well, I think that Governor Abbott has made good decisions. I think it's smart that he is letting locals do the stay-at-home orders. I don't think it's appropriate at this time to do a statewide one because, believe it or not, we're worried about the economic impact and we're worried about protecting and saving lives. And we have parts of our state that don't have a single case a positive of COVID-19, and it would not make sense for the governor to then shut those communities down. And frankly, I think that we're going to get through this. I think we're going to get through it sooner than later, but the only way sooner happens is if we comply with the guidelines and we comply with CDC requirements. What I have noticed, and I'm a stubborn person myself, I don't like any of what's going on. But what I have learned is that if I am compliant, I will be through dealing with the things I don't like sooner rather than later. I don't like stay-at-home orders, but the reality of it is they are necessary for the times that we are in. And the sooner we comply with these requirements, the sooner we get back to the normalcy of life, the sooner we get our economy back to churning, and the sooner we will have economic success in Texas. And quite frankly, we will have fewer Texans' lives lost because of this pandemic. So whether we're happy about it, which we're not, if we comply, we get out of it sooner rather than later. And I want out of it.
Yeah, I think everybody does. Speaker Dennis Bonnen, as always, appreciate your time today, and we'll visit again soon.
Thank you very much, Chad. Have a good day and be safe.
You too. That's Texas House Speaker Dennis Bonnen here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO.